Hey everyone, so I wanted to talk to you guys about the loss that a parent feels when the grief that a parent experiences when they've lost their child. Um, I've been really blessed where I have not, thank God, lost a child in this life yet, and I hope I don't. But I have had the privilege of working with many families and many parents who have unfortunately lost their child um, for one reason or another. It doesn't really matter what the reason is, and it doesn't matter how old the child is. Um, it is challenging and painful, and it's just probably pure hell. Um, I've been witnessed to mothers and fathers who have lost their kids due to accidents, due to natural causes, and also due to suicide. It's never easy, no matter what the reason is, no matter what the cause is, and no matter how old they are, whether they're little babies who, little kids who've drowned, or, been in an accident, or they've taken their own life. It doesn't matter. It's never something that is easy to deal with. So I wanted to talk to you about that because I think this is, it's something that I think there's a common sort of, I found in working with the different families and different parents that there seems to be a common way that there's different ways that people react. There seems to be a common thread in all of that. So, you know, I think it's important we talk about the stages of grief. There's 5 stages of grief. The first one is denial. Second one is anger. Third one is depression. Fourth one is plea bargaining. And fifth one is acceptance. So, denial is usually when a parent loses their child. I think they go straight into anger and depression and plea bargaining, and eventually, hopefully, they come to acceptance. Um, but I also find that some common questions that parents ask is, why, right? We all want to know, why did this happen? Why were they taken away? Why, uh, is there something that I could have done to help them, to prevent this? Is there something that I missed um, in terms of, were there signs that, I could have known? Maybe you know, I could have paid more attention. Maybe I could have taken them to this specialist. Maybe I could have listened more. There's this desire to, the question. I was talking to a parent recently, a couple of parents just this past week, and it's there's the question is, who's to blame, who's responsible, who can I blame? And it was very straight up asked, right? Who's to be blamed for this? And after I listened to the parent, my response was, well, does it have to be, is it really important that you blame someone? Can you not just accept it? Which is easier said for me, since I'm not in her shoes, but I'm obviously there to help facilitate the healing in some way. And you know the question was, who do we blame? And I don't think I don't even think that's the right question to ask. Sometimes, I'm all for good questions, but sometimes it's not that the questions are not smart or stupid. I don't think there are any stupid questions. I just think they're inappropriate questions. Um, I think, it doesn't matter, right? We want to blame because we want to try to make sense of what's going on, um, which is a normal human need. You want to make sense. Why did this happen? And you want to somehow, know that maybe you could have done something, and so I got into this conversation with a couple of these parents this week. And, um, you know, I won't get into the details of the conversation because, again, they're very specific to, their part where they are in their journey in making sense of this based on their understanding and their spirituality. And, they're all over the map in terms of their, who they are, in terms of their ethnic background, in terms of their religious beliefs. The different parents that I've been speaking to are not similar. So my conversation with them was different, based on who they were. But there was a common thread, and the common thread was, spirituality is spirituality, regardless of what religion you believe in. And it's very interesting to me that, many of us, even though we might be Hindus, we might be Muslims, we might be Christians, we might be Buddhist, it doesn't matter what religion we are. We all are spiritual seekers. We're all seeking, and we are all asking the same questions. And we're looking for it usually in the context of the faith that we are raised in. And a lot of times there are limitations in the faith that we are raised in. As amazing as all these different religions are, I think they are very dogmatic and they are very limiting in terms of, not every faith really spells it out for you. The whole idea is that, you have to search, you have to be a seeker. And so whatever information, you're able to seek and find, go for it. I want to suggest a couple of books that came up that have been helpful, that I've read over the years, and that have been very helpful to the different families, and they are. So there's Home with God by Neale Donald Walsch is a very powerful book. Of course, anything by Neale Donald Walsch I recommend. I would definitely recommend Conversations with God, which I read about 20 years ago, and I've reread, book 1, 2, and 3, and many of his other books. But Home with God especially is quite powerful when it comes to understanding, the process of death and how that works. He does a really beautiful job explaining that. Of course, Anita Murjani had a near-death experience, and she wrote about it quite beautifully in Dying to Live Again. So that's another really good book. There's also Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss. That's a no-brainer. And then there's another book that's actually called Laws of the Spirit World. That's by Khorshid something. I can't remember. The book is right there. Yeah, thank you. Let me show you this book. This is a book. I know it's backwards on the screen. It's Laws of the Spirit World by Khorshid Bhavnagri. You might find it on Amazon. You might have to look for it in Amazon India. I actually am now just getting copies of it for friends from India. It's just a beautiful book. And it's another, very powerful book that I think brings a lot of peace and clarity and answers some questions where there aren't many. I want to just say one thing. When your child leaves, yes, they're physically gone. It's like a part of you leaves. And there's a lot of guilt and a lot of, pain. And you feel this void in you. Parents don't want to do anything, with their lives. A mom said to me, I've seen several moms say, I feel guilty when I get dressed, in the morning, and or if I even like smile at something, I feel like, how dare I smile? What right do I have to be happy when my child is gone? But I'll tell you something. I don't think your child wants you to suffer and punish yourself, right? The soul is an energy form. Energy does not die. It simply switches forms. Remember, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So no one really dies. The soul never dies. It just, moves on. It just moves on. So the physical is gone, but the energy of your soul, the soul, is always around. So how do I talk to my loved one that's gone? Well, it's really quite simple. If you are able to get past the grief, if you're able to get past the blame, if you're able to get the busyness, the guilt, the emotion, if you're able to get past all that, then you actually can talk to them, because again, what is talking? It's your imagination, right? Imagination is powerful. Are you making it up? Possibly. But I think it's kind of, ironic that if you are making it up, why is it that you're making up, that specific thought is coming to you and not anything else? Why is it that specific, thing is coming up in your head versus something else? It's just a matter of getting quiet and listening and praying. And, prayer is very, very powerful. It doesn't matter what faith you're in. Prayer is very, very powerful. So, I think blaming is useless, guys. Parents, if you've lost your child, stop blaming yourself. You didn't do anything, to cause this. There's nothing you could have done to stop that. Their time was it was. Excuse me. Their time was what it was. Did they choose to check out? Who knows? That's a contractual agreement between them and God, and they alone will know. And hopefully when you see them, when you reunite with them, which I'm sure you will, after you pass away, you can ask them and you can figure that out then. But, it's okay that you live. There's a reason you're alive. I work on the psychiatric unit, right? And I work with a lot of patients who have tried to kill themselves. And they come because they've tried committing suicide and they've not been successful, right? So when I'm sitting in group with them, they'll talk about, oh, I did this and I did this. And they'll try hanging themselves, or they'll try literally shooting themselves, right? And they didn't succeed. Or they'll try overdosing on pills and they didn't succeed, or something or the other. And my question to you is, and it's quite, hand in cheek, and I know I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'll say to them, well, you tried to kill yourself. Did it work? And they'll go, well, no, and I go, really? Well, why do you think that is? Right? And they'll think for a second, and sometimes they have the sense of clarity, sometimes they don't. And I have to say to them, well, maybe it wasn't your time, right? If it wasn't your time, then it just wasn't your time, and maybe it was the time of whoever passed on. I do believe that we have a choice in when we die. I'm not asking you to believe anything I believe. I'm simply sharing with you what I believe. You are welcome to believe whatever you believe, and I would never dare tell you to believe anything different. But what I believe is that we have several checkout points. Checkout points meaning time to leave the body. And I believe we have choices, and we choose whether we decide to walk through and cross over into the other side or not. And, if your loved ones decided to cross over, I'm sure there's a reason for it. We might not always get the answer, right? So, again, all I want to say is, please talk to people. Do not talk to people. And while we're on the topic, people, if you know people who've lost someone, please keep your personal beliefs about religion and whatever happens to yourself. If you don't have anything nice and positive to say, keep your mouth shut, because you're actually causing a lot of harm and damage, and they don't need to know that. And I'm sorry, I apologize if I'm offending someone, but, I'm really speaking on behalf of the families who are sitting here having lost someone, and then when they try to move on, then they have to deal with all the nonsense that people tell them, meaning well, but really just ridiculousness that comes through their mouth. And it's like, just keep your opinions and your personal beliefs to yourself. Offer prayers, and let's leave it at that. Don't go around, please, giving your ideas about what you think happens to the soul, and if the soul's crossed over and if it hasn't crossed over. You don't know any of this for sure, so don't talk about it, okay? Unless you know for sure, then different story. Also, just offer them prayers, offer them judgment. I know that unless you've actually lost a child, you have no idea what that grief is like. I certainly don't. I've only witnessed that, but unless, I've actually experienced that, I have no idea what that pain is like. And I pray and hope that no one ever, has to go through that. But, God, when you do, please reach out to a professional therapist. Reach out to people that you trust. You're welcome to reach out to me. Again, many of you have messaged me. I'm happy to get on the phone and talk to you guys. I have no problem with that. I'm happy to direct you to someone else if I'm not the right person. But get a professional therapist. Find someone that you can talk to, because I think it's important that you get the help. I don't think anyone should go through this alone. Anyways, I hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much. Sending you love and light. And until next time, good night.